What is going on, everybody? Non here, back to the grind. We're going to get right to it because there is a lot of information coming through. So let's get started. We're just going to go right down the list here. Dragon Ball Super looks like, I should say Fusion World. Looks like FB09 comes out, I believe, next week. The boxes are pre-selling for over $300. Seems like there's still a pretty sizable injection of interest. Now, obviously, in the past, I believe it was just Alliance and GTS or PhD, one of the two, who carried Fusion World. Looks like Southern's picking Fusion World up. I think this is really just the general expansion of Bandai, obviously pushing One Piece to Southern and PhD. So we would expect it cast a little bit more of a wider net. So, that's pretty crazy. Final Fantasy. One thing that was interesting, and for those of you who follow the game, the boxes tend to perform reasonably well. Not super liquid, but the stores that run events, they have a very diehard audience, I should say. Gunslinger in the Abyss, which was 2 sets ago, those boxes are getting close to a 7 handle. Journey of Discovery is still in the high 40s, so just kind of a couple bucks above distribution price. But Dreamlike Oceans, again, comes out in a couple weeks. This one's going to be interesting because it's 15th anniversary set. What that means, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Flesh and Blood, they did spoil their next set. What is the name? I don't even know what the name is. Omens of the Third Age, I guess is what it looks like, which is the July or the June set. Compendium of Wraith, the singles are selling okay. Sell-through's kind of falling off a cliff. The Antiquity packs, I think there's been like 22 that have sold since release in TCG Player. So the premium price gambler item isn't selling. So that's a little disappointing. I was intrigued to see what would happen on both sides of the fence, but it looks like A, Flesh and Blood people are cheap. B, nobody is collecting or investing because they've been burned so many times. And C, there are no gamblers left, which is why there isn't a whole lot of sealed product that sells, and certainly not a whole lot of lottery boosters here, if you will. So it's pretty clear where the game is at this point, just related to that. So let's see. We'll move on. Godzilla, this was interesting. So Bushi talked about Godzilla and all their games a little bit, but with Godzilla itself, Toho, who is they own the IP. It is a gigantic Japanese, I guess, movie production studio, conglomerate, whatever you want to call it. Bushi's kind of waiting on their direction for some promotion. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully they do a little bit of promotion here, but the game's certainly healthy, certainly moving forward. So really not a whole heck of a lot there. Gundam, I thought this was super fascinating. For those of you who pay attention, Steel Requiem GDO3, the sell-through on TCG Player has been absolutely phenomenal. We haven't seen the booster box dumps like we did with Dual Impact, which is the second set. And quite honestly, there's 3,100 boxes that have sold already in just a couple weeks, which is super fascinating. The Bandai guys did mention that they have no plans to reprint GDO1, which is New Type Rising. The boxes on the market are the market. They do have plans to reprint STO1 through STO4. And I know with the relatively small-ish card pool now, it's obviously growing a little bit now that we're on set 3. A lot of the competitive decks do require certain cards out of those 4 starter kits, depending on the colors you're playing. But I think the interest in the game is growing. The game itself is growing. The sell-through is extremely healthy. With Still Requiem, and look, the boxes are selling for $95, $96 on distro price of somewhere in the mid 70s, which again, this is right where One Piece was for its first couple years of existence. You build out the player base, and then everything takes care of itself. And it looks like Bandai has really taken the leap to adjust all of the games that were kind of falling off. Union Arena, Dragon Ball Fusion World, Super, Digimon, from where they are to more of a one-piece model as opposed to the other way around. And I think the mindset is if the boxes get hot and it prices folks out, they're more willing to deal with the backlash from that than Union Arena for the last how many sets basically performed. I don't want to say like Yu-Gi-Oh, because it wasn't that much of a haircut, but everything was below distributor price. Pretty much the second they hit the ground outside of one or two IPs. So I thought that was really encouraging. The Gundam Assemble looks pretty cool. If you like painted toys, Warhammer-esque games, that does, I believe the pre-orders are out now. They also are planning on doing a second pre-order window, I believe, in June or July, and then the set itself or the game itself releases in October. I think it's actually delayed because I believe for the longest time they were talking about January of 2026, but it does look like it's gotten delayed a little bit. Not sure why. Moving on, Hololive, kind of the same thing with Godzilla. I mean, obviously it is a sort of kind of IP for Bushi, whereas Godzilla is not at all. They really didn't have a whole lot of main items that they were pushing on, which I thought was a little disappointing. But again, they didn't have a whole lot of time to sell. Lorcana, we'll see what happens with the next set that's coming out. I'm still not sold one way or another. One Piece, looks like the OP15 allocations are out. It looks like it's about what OP14 was, maybe a little bit lighter, which is what we would expect if the print runs are held steady and there are more stores signing up for organized play. So really not a whole lot to report there. OP17 pre-release, I think you can still register it for the next week or two. And then, believe it or not, we're actually looking at OP18, which is end of the year. So next thing you know, we're in 2027. Riftbound League of Legends. It does look like they're going to make sure that the cost of the boxes don't get out of control. And by out of control, I think anything in the 150 to 300 range, they're not going to deem as out of control because Riot does want value of the product, but they also, I don't think, plan for boxes to get to 500 at least right away. So we do have a reprint of Origins and Proving Grounds coming out. It does look like that's getting moved back. Initially, that was slated for this week or next week. It looks like it's going to get pushed back a couple months, potentially to the end of Q2. Don't quote me on that. But on the flip side, everybody who is talking to the company selling the product on the distribution side, everybody's super bullish because they're like, look, they can't make enough product. There's so much demand. And quite honestly, that's what we're seeing in store with our events for Spirit Forged, where we're better attended than the Magic the Gathering events. And I'm not talking Turtles. I'm talking about like Commander Night, stuff like that. So that's interesting. Moving on. Russia Vicore, I didn't spend a whole lot of time on this. I haven't had a whole lot of time to spend on Upper Deck properties, quite honestly. There's just too many damn games to keep my head wrapped around. Sorcery Contested Realm. I did speak to the two folks that carry this game. They have no idea when they're getting any more product. They have not been contacted by the company. So it seemed like there is as much frustration on that front as there is with the player base, wondering whether there's more product coming. But quite honestly, both boxes are still under the company's targeted MSRP. So on the flip side, there's probably not a whole lot of motivation to get more product to the market. And look, to the company's credit, they may have learned the lesson and they're not going to dump product, which is good. Uni Arena. Yeah, here's another one. We'll just click on this. And this really goes to show the hard pivot that Bandai's made with this game. So the first thing they did was effectively remove or enforce a brick and mortar only. This basically eliminated any of the backpack sellers from being able to buy the product. And then next, I would imagine they're going to start to tighten the screws a little bit on organized play. Now, you can't lean in completely because there really wouldn't be a whole lot of demand left for the game. But we're starting to see it with some of the games. Solo leveling boxes. This pre-release is in 2 weeks, and the boxes are like $300. The last that just came out, and it starts with a K. I'm gonna get crucified. I can't think of the name. The boxes are sitting around $75. And normally these boxes come out, and I think distro cost is like 55, and 3 seconds later they're in high 40s. So just that little minor change has seemed to have a dramatic impact on the market, which again, great for Bandai. A lot of these IPs I don't know all that well. And then I think that's it on this one. Really not, I don't think we have anything past Attack on Titan and Starting Life Around the World Booster. But after that, we'll see. I know they had talked about a couple banger IPs, depending on what you like. But I did want to touch on this one because it does seem like there is a dramatic sentiment shift in the market for this. Wonders of the First and Bo Jackson Battle Arena. I believe 99% sure it's the same company that makes both of these. They do. Wonders of the First has a second edition set coming out, or a second set coming out here shortly. Have not heard where, if any, distribution is going to carry it. I know the company had solicited orders from stores. It looks like they may be doing the same thing for the next Bo Jackson Battle Arena set. Obviously, the Griffey Jr. set came out, sold extremely well. I've actually been shocked, just kind of paying attention to the outside, as how well the crossover between a relatively simplistic TCG and the sports spaces, especially with the on-card autographs, which is quite honestly, it's brilliant the way they do things. I still struggle to see why companies like Pulse is a startup. You have Leaf, you have Panini. Just start with the on-card autographs. Weiss will just transition to that. They said that Nikkei Volume 2 is going to be a Japanese and English concurrent launch, but for whatever reason, they don't know if they want to do AGR, so autographers on both sets of cards. And I get it, the logistics are hard, but if they have autographers in English, the set is going to sell so much better than if you just have the stamps on the cards. I was a little disappointed because I spent a lot of time just kind of researching what the Japanese release schedule looks like for the second half of the year. So it looks like the plan right now, so we have what's called Funeral of Freerin, which I believe was a March release. That is a reboot of the reprint that we just got, which is effectively Freerin Volume 1 from the first 28 episodes, which are on Netflix. Only, I believe, the SP Plus cards have a blue foil finishing as opposed to silver, which is kind of weird to me. I haven't seen it before. It's not to say that it hasn't existed, but quite honestly, I've only been paying attention to Weiss for like 5 years, and I don't pay attention to every IP because most of them I don't know. Then we have Nikkei Volume 2, which they did confirm. Looks like it's going to be a September-October release. Then we have Freerin Volume 2, which I asked him about that, and I asked him about Brown Dust 2, which is in the press release for Japan, and nobody with the company. I talked to the president of North America. I talked to all the folks at the booth. Nobody had any idea what I was talking about. So that was extremely disappointing. I figured if you're going to come and you're going to talk to folks, at least know your shit. It is what it is. So I think we covered the ancillary games. Let's talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room. So we're going to talk about Magic first, then we'll finish with Pokemon. Magic the Gathering. So we just got a Lord of the Rings reprint for Commander decks. I've been saying it for months now. And the reason I tell you guys this is so a lot of folks don't pay attention to what's coming. It keeps folks from paying top dollar to an item and then just getting punched in the face when the price of things fall off a cliff. Quite honestly, that's it. Looks like there are still some that distribution hasn't allocated yet, The sell-through on TCG Player is absolutely through the roof. Anything under $200, people are buying up. Now, I've had this debate ad nauseum. When is it going to rotate out? Lord of the Rings. And my response is, well, it wasn't standard legal, so it never rotated in. So since it doesn't rotate out, there is literally no guidance whatsoever. Some of the folks talk about when does the licensing agreement run out? And again, my counterpoint to that is when the license agreement was signed between the IP holder and Wizards of the Coast, it's in everybody's best interest to keep that reprint period as long as possible, because theoretically, Wizards of the Coast is going to pay royalty for every box sold, every box printed. I don't know what the fine print says, but the reason I bring that up is when it comes to Warhammer 40K, I would not be surprised if we see a reprint of Commander decks there, because in these days of Wizards of the Coast needing to hit their quarterly numbers, some of the weakness in Turtles, the sentiment coming into Marvel being fear of being more Spider-Man than Final Fantasy, I guess. And then the market getting saturated with some products. Now it's obviously moved pretty significantly in this week and a half. I would not be surprised to see a Warhammer 40K reprint. And some of you guys are going to say, hey, that was one of the first ones. It was 2022. We just got Commander Starter, which was a December 2022 release. So again, I will tell you that there are no rules. There have not been standard sets that rotated out since 2025. The next standard rotation is 2026. And it looks like that is going to be your Ixalan Wilds, Karlov, Bloom, Duskmourn, and OTJ. So if they stick to that schedule, and then in February 2028, they're rotating out the Aether Drifts of the world through all of the 2025 releases, then we're talking, because now you're going to have a little bit of a tighter window for Final Fantasy, which, again, they always move the goalposts. This is just simply conjecture. My point being, since these products were never in standard, they don't rotate out of standard, so there's no guidance on reprinting, just like we have no guidance on reprinting set boxes or play boxes or draft boxes. We just don't know, because they change the rules when it's convenient. Now, outside of that, is everything is performing extremely, extremely well. And I think it's really surprising a lot of people. We just saw Bloomborough play reprints came in and vaporized immediately. Edge of Eternities before that came in and vaporized immediately. Lorwyn play boxes came in, vaporized immediately. Now, I think there's still a handful at distribution, but the sell-through on those, even on TCG players, like $40 a day still, which for a set that's been out for 2 months now, I guess a little bit less than that, is absolutely astronomical. People look at Lorwyn Commanders and the price of the singles is suppressed, but I think when you're looking at a Commander set of 2 decks, so you get 2 per display, I just think Wizards really hammered the print button on that to get to certain revenue numbers. And, there's going to be far more copies of each deck on the market than what we're going to see with Strixhaven, for example. Or Turtles for that matter, but Turtles is a completely different conversation. We'll talk about that one next. But I have not heard anything definitive about the next set boxes coming time-wise. But again, it should be Ixalan, Lord of the Rings, Wilds of Eldraine. And again, I believe I told you guys last week that there is confirmation from Asmodee UK. Again, that is printed out of Belgium. That is not printed out of Texas. That they're getting Wilds of Eldraine Commander and Fallout Commander here in March. When I see it from some of my contacts over there, I will share. But that is what I've seen, what I'm being told. But again, until the product ships, we just don't know for sure. So moving to Turtles. So Magic's very, very fascinating, because the pendulum tends to go in tranches of sets. So you have like 3 good sets, and we'll just think about it in groups of 3. We have 3 really, really good sets, and the hype just gets absolutely batshit crazy, like we had after Final Fantasy, going into Spider-Man, when people were paying like $800-900 for collector boxes. And that's a scenario where it doesn't matter how good the set is, it's never going to hit the expectations because there's so much hype. And then we have Spider-Man Crashing Avatar being okay. Lorman is fine. But then we have the Turtle set that everybody hated. Everybody thought was going to be worse than Spider-Man. But it wasn't. The playability of the cards seems pretty good. Power level seems above average. The commander decks look like they're a lot of fun. The team ups look like they're fun. I keep wanting to call them tag teams, but I'm pretty sure they're team ups. It doesn't seem like there's a bad product in there. The play boxes haven't plummeted. I think before release on TCG Player, when it was pre-sale only, they were 127. Now they're 122. It looks like the micro centers of the world, the stores got less than a master case or 24 collector boxes. So there's not going to be a whole lot of downward pressure there. Now we'll see what happens with play and bundles. So the set hasn't tanked. Throttling how much product's getting out that has gotten out into the world has seemed to, stabilize the price of the product. Now, as we all know, Wizards isn't stupid. They don't short print anything. They hold stuff back, and generally speaking, they like to control the narrative of everybody thinks things are short printed, and then they'll push stuff out through a second wave for distribution. They'll push some stuff out through Amazon. It's going to be interesting to see because we haven't gotten a second wave of collector boxes for a very, very long time. I mean, it may have been like Neon Dynasty was the last time, or MH3 or something. Also the two sets that were rumored to have additional prints, but I digress. No factor there. But it'll be interesting to see if that happens at some point. Because quite honestly, I think the collector boxes of Turtles are going to be $600 here relatively quickly. By relatively quickly, Q3, Q4 of this year, there's just not enough out there. The sell-through is decent. The fractured foils and the signature cards, they're going to carry value. And the expected value of these, by my anticipation, is going to be somewhere in the $500, $600, $700 range, which means people are going to buy them. They're going to rip them for singles, and it's just going to chew up the supply a little bit more. So getting back to the pendulum swinging, running into Turtles pre-release, it was the absolute worst of the worst. If you polled 100 people about Turtles, 101 would tell you it was going to suck. So now that it's not that bad, we're going into Strixhaven, where they know they have to continue the perception of the product print run and supply being tight. Again, perception doesn't equal reality in this space, but all of the Timmies on the internet, perception is all that matters. Then we're going to go into Marvel, and we're going to be going into Marvel most likely on the upswing, where people are going to be cautious but probably optimistic because Strixhaven is going to be banger. Turtles is better than what everybody thought, which it could be the worst set ever, and it would still be better than what everybody thought, which is kind of funny. So it's going to be interesting to see if, I don't think they've added a serialized card to Marvel. I know they've spoiled the box art. It'll be interesting to see how they handle the hype. I'm guessing, the challenge is they only have the Marvel set effectively in Q2. Because Turtles shipped in Q1, so your revenues in Q1. Strixhaven is a third week of April release, I believe. I have it right in front of me. I don't know why I'm not looking at it. Yeah. So this is all going to ship in Q1. So here we have Q2 ship for Marvel. And that's pretty much it. I think The Hobbit is an August release. So it's probably not going to, I guess they could pivot either way. If they want to ship it for delivery in Q2 or not. But Q2, which is your Final Fantasy comp year over year, they're basically hanging their hat on Marvel to hit all their numbers. So it's going to be difficult to throttle back the number of collector boxes to create a lot of hype on it. But, they do have draft nights, they do have gift bundles. There's ways of pushing more ancillary product out, which is a little bit of an easier bite for folks to take. We have the scene boxes, which are kind of a rounding error. I'm not a huge fan. I think they're kind of junky. But then we have all this Jumpstart. If they can figure out a way with Jumpstart to have a chase in there, some sort of randomized chase that people want, as opposed to the same shit over and over again, I think they have a shot to do that. I know some of the big sites are selling Marvel Play Boosters for sub 130. I have a hard time believing that anybody's going to find a better price than that going into the set, because there's no way in hell they're going to tank Marvel. It's just not going to happen. I don't see a scenario where that happens. So again, I'm super bullish on Magic, and we see what's happening. OTJ wasn't bought out, but it has dried up substantially. There are 3 distributors who have it still. Looks like we are getting Foundations Play. Should ship this week. Most likely. I think we got a little bit of a delay last week, just based on some of the industry events. Karlov's still everywhere. Duskmourn's starting to dry up at a couple places. Bloomburrow Play is like I said, it's already gone everywhere. So I can see a world where there is a real run on those products, and it's gonna be interesting to see how much they print. I just don't see a scenario where they don't reprint it, even if it's 10,000 boxes, because they'll sell it to distribution. Distribution will take it. I shouldn't say 10,000. It's probably going to be like 50,000 across everybody. They'll take it. They'll take the sale. It's a super compact, easy way to book revenue and profit a quarter. It's just kind of the easy button. So take it for what it's worth. We'll see what happens. I know they have a lot to print, but they also have a lot of money to push around, and a lot of print capacity to manage. So we'll see. Okay. The thing that everybody's waiting on, by the way, we have new battle decks coming out. Who's excited? The Mega Lucario ones. Apparently they're quite good. Pokemon is on an absolute tear. 151 sealed product and singles have more than doubled in, I said, like 3 seconds. That is the definition of quick, by the way, for anybody who had a question about what the definition of quick is. Prismatic Evolutions sealed product is spiking. Paldean Fates is spiking. Everything going out of rotation is spiking, because the level of education of what happens with these products is at an all-time high. The amount of interest and the amount of people and the amount of money in this game is at an all-time high. You take all of those things together, the inefficiencies in the market start to disappear. That's why you see something like, look, Mega Evolutions 3 Perfect Order booster boxes could be had for $180 at one point. Now they're at $250. And they're at $250 because no other boxes are cheaper than that. So that the demand curve, and we're talking Econ 101, has shifted. And with the supply being a little bit tighter for Perfect Order than it's been for the other sets, at least for booster boxes, they're going to sell. They're going to sell for over $200. And it doesn't matter how much people complain about the set, and they complain about how it's weak. If this set came out after Temporal Forces, everybody would be talking about how it's a great set. The bar has been raised so high because the Pokemon Company has made so many fantastic sets in a row. The world's kind of forgot what lighter sets look like. I mean, everybody thought Journey Together was a great set when it came out. There were a couple good chase cards. It was made up of 2 Japanese sets, full sets. But people they kind of lose touch with perspective there, because we've had a lot of good sets in a row. But getting back to the market inefficiencies starting to evaporate, the price of items is much higher now, because there really aren't a whole lot of free tendies here. People know that SV1 to SV 4.5 rotate out in a month. they're making a bet that there's not more product coming. And even if there is, it's not enough to move the needle because everybody's going to buy it up. It's going to evaporate because everybody knows what happens next. And that is part of the Pokemon company's challenge with trying to tamp down the hype around the game or the product, however you want to look at it, because there's really no way to do it. It works. It's worked for 3 decades. And then we're going into the 30th anniversary. It's absolutely insane. And I'm a firm believer of buying weakness and selling strength. Right now, I'm just really doing nothing because you kind of got to wait for the dust to settle and see what happens. So it's absolutely crazy what's going on, and I'm kind of speechless with how crazy things are right now. So outside of that, not a whole lot going on right now with Pokemon. Expecting to see a lot of super interesting news with a ton of SKUs coming out. Oh, Wave 2, we've gotten tech stickers. I believe we've gotten 2-packs and ETBs. At most distributors have shipped, some have not. Obviously, the world of logistics around Pokemon and everything in this country is a little screwy right now. Have not seen Wave 2 of the mini tins. And then obviously we go into the oh my god, drawing a blank. The pin collection that Walmart shipped 3 weeks ago, and then the poster collections, and then we have these cool first partner illustration collections. These things are really they're badass. The starters. The way I look at them, the starters in a PSA 10 are probably going to sell for $50+ each, and you get 3 of them in a pack. It's such a cool product. It's a really awesome design. So anyway, guys, I've talked enough. It's daylight savings. It's 9 o'clock. I'm tired. So we'll talk later. Have a good night.